Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are back with Freedom Call with our second part of Arudha Lagna. Welcome, Freedom.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you? Thank you for coming back and giving us your time again. And our first interview was a blast. Everybody wanted more of you and had a lot of
Sounds
questions,
wonderful.
which we'll be addressing in the interview today.
Great. So where do we want to start?
So one of the questions was, how do we see Mahadasha results? Can we see Mahadasha results in Arudha
Yeah.
Lagna?
So one of the things, and it's kind of going over a month ago, so I don't remember everything I said in the last time, but I do think I put a lot of emphasis on the Lagna being Karka sun and Arudha Lagna being Karka moon, right?
Right.
And so when we look at the dasha, Mahadasha is the Karka is sun, and the Antaradasha, the Karka is moon. So in general, for Arudha Lagna, Antardasha means so much more.
Okay.
And if you think about it, perception, whose perception stays the same for 19 years? Good things come, bad things come. Perception is changing much more rapid than a Mahadasha can bring. So in general, when we're interpreting from Arudha, we're primarily using planetary position. When we're interpreting Dasha, we put more emphasis on the Maha from the Lagna, and we put more emphasis on the Antara from the Arudha Lagna. And you'll get much finer detailed results and the big thing is the Maha will impact the Arudha, and the Antara will impact the Lagna, but it's just where to put the emphasis.
Right. So if someone has like Jupiter Mahadasha, right?
Yes.
So depending where Jupiter is from the Arudha Lagna, so are we able to see the results?
Well, if they're running a Jupiter, let's say a Jupiter sun or Jupiter moon, or let's take it into an Antara. From classical rules, we're looking at Stanastiti Grahavirya. We're looking at placement, its strength, and where it is from Lagna, things of that nature. We'll take into account from Arudha that if it's second from Arudha Lagna, fame is going to rise. If it's conjunct the Arudha Lagna, person will be famous. If it's in this way, if it's third from Arudha Lagna, then actually reputation is going to be suffering. Jupiter is not beneficial in that placement. So, but it's secondarily, it's not the primary, because we're going to take the primary interpretation from Lagna. And then when we go to the Antara will be able to be a little bit more of, is it a good time to be advertising? Is it a good time to be self-promoting, or is it not a good time to be self-promoting? Looking at where that Antar Dasha planet is placed from the Arudha Lagna. Planets placed in Kendra, with the Arudha Lagna in Kendra or second, great time to be promoting yourself and anything related to that planet. So what do you have in second or Kendra to Arudha Lagna?
Second from Arudha Lagna?
Yeah, second or Kendra.
Nothing.
Nothing, and nothing in Kendra's.
So let's see. I have to draw mine. I'll have to look at it.
Yes.
Sorry, just
1, 4, 7, and 10. Yeah.
I've got Jupiter in the 10th.
In the 10th. So
Jupiter
in
and
that
K2.
10th. Yeah. Say again, Jupiter.
Jupiter and K2, I have 10th from Arudha Lagna, and Mars and Venus 7th from Arudha
and
Lagna.
Mars and Venus 7th. So during Antaras of Jupiter or Ketu, you want to be promoting yourself as a interviewer who is getting to the heart of traditions, who is bringing the tradition into the modern world, who is, same advertisement that you had before, but just what are we going to make as primary? When we have that Mars Venus Antaras, either Mars or Venus, you want to be advertising that if you want to understand relationship, then please listen to my podcast. If you want to understand how couples get along, but we want to push a little bit more in this direction. And that's what's going to be bringing fame during that time period.
Okay.
So, and notice though, I'm looking at the Antara for that.
Right.
And
So,
it's for a particular time period, because the different time periods we're working on representing ourselves in different ways.
right.
But Antara, the interpreting from the Antara is the magic key there.
Okay. So
For getting good results.
okay. And looking at the kendras from the Arudha.
Oh, that's just like what will be good to be advertising from.
Okay.
All the other planets will mean what they mean relative to the Arudha.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
So so if the Arudha Lagna is same as Navamsha Lagna,
Uh-huh.
then does one conclude that how one is perceived is same as who they are?
And so this was somebody's question, huh?
Yes.
So when we look at how we're perceived from the Vamsha Lagna, literally it's talking about, do you have a darker skin tone or lighter skin tone?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to have darker hair or lighter hair? Are you going to have a beautiful physique, or are you going to have a frumpy physique? What kind of looks, and so it's what you're perceived as, but it's literally what you are. It's not an image that is projected into the minds of people. I was just watching last night a discussion in Oxford on Modi, and it was the debate, and they had two sides, and they were the pro Modi and the anti Modi. And the pro Modi, he was wonderful, and the anti Modi, he was horrible. Now, who Modi is, he's not either one of them. He's a human being who has some things that are good for certain people and things that are bad for other people, but which of those perceptions is he able to mobilize, to represent, and to push, and which image will win? This is Arudha. Arudha's not who he is. It's not what he looks like. It's not his, So the Navamsha Lagna, we could say it's a reality. That would be what Modi is actually good at, what he's actually giving, what he actually has incredible skills to share with everybody. And then the Arudha Lagna is more what he's representing himself as. So you can have somebody who doesn't know anything, who represents themselves as very intelligent and people think they are. Or you can have somebody who nobody believes in, everybody has no confidence in, but yet they actually have really good skills. So the Navamsha is, what do you have? What are your skill sets? Who are you? What do you actually look like? Arudha Lagna is just how we're representing that to the world.
Right.
And in the end, the fact that you're interviewing people in a podcast, that would be a Navamsha skill. It is. It's a fact, right? Now, what topics are you focusing on? What topics do you become famous for? That we're going to see from the Arudha Lagna.
Okay.
Being somebody who's known for interviewing more traditional scholars and practitioners and really making that relevant for today, that beautiful Jupiter Ketu in the 10th from Arudha Lagna is just going to pull that out.
Beautiful.
Yes. So we have to be able to And every single point, we have to understand how each point is different than another.
Right.
And then we get to give these very fine-tuned interpretations to people. You're good at this, but nobody appreciates that. This is what they're going to appreciate. So do this, but make it look like that.
Okay.
You can, if you can differentiate Navamsha and Arudha Lagna in that way, then you're giving this recipe for success.
Interesting.
And in the end, that's what people want. They want the recipe for success, right?
Right.
They need to, what is the recipe to attain my dharma, artha, kama, moksha? What is the recipe that's going to make this happen and happen now, and not take long, and let me be big in whichever direction I go? And so if we can give them that recipe that does that, you know, I tell people, if somebody sends they come to you for a consult and then they send their children to you, you know you've been successful.
Right.
If you're able to activate that success.
Right.
Yeah. And that differentiation of Navamsha and Arudha becomes very important.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does degree, how much degree matters for Arudha Lagna?
So some people use degree. Whether it's supported traditionally or not is a very large debate. We do, with multiple implications. And the biggest implication of do we use degree is that degree would impact Varga charts. And so when we calculate Varga charts, do we recalculate the Arudha Lagna, or do we take the degree of the Arudha Lagna from the Rashi into those various Vargas? And in general, we recalculate the Arudha for each Varga. So each Varga has its own Arudha. And just as a small note, the Arudha means something different in each Varga chart.
So will there be a different Arudha Lagna in Navamsha chart?
100%.
Okay. And okay, so if in D1, Arudha Lagna, we say perceived image, right? Yeah. Then in D9, what would it, still a perceived image, but is it more within the relationship, or?
Well, that's the thing. You see, it gets very complicated, and I don't think I want to go into that deep water, but just as an example, the Arudha of the 7th house is going to show you how famous or not famous, or what your wife becomes famous for.
Okay.
So it's not becoming you anymore, it's becoming the spouse. But notice I'm not using the Arudha of the Lagna anymore, I'm using the Arudha of the 7th house to give that interpretation. So everything has to be taking in its proper place. Like in the D4, what's the Arudha Lagna is not that important, but what becomes very important is the D4 there. Right. And what people think of your house, and how they know your house, and what is the reputation of your home, that becomes a very important thing in that chart. You in relation to your home, it's minuscule for results. But so degrees are, the Arudas are recalculated in every single Varga. So we don't need a degree for that purpose. Okay. If we take, instead of calling it the Arudha Lagna, we call it the Lagna Bhava Pada.
Okay.
Then, and we understand them as, you know, because Arudas is one term, and Bhava Padas is the term that Parashara primarily uses is Bhava Pada. And Bhava Pada means a pada of a bhava. So we're calculating from a house to where its Lord went, and then that many more houses. And so it is, Arudas in general are a technique for whole sign houses. If you're using Shripati or something of that nature, Arudas are going to lose their significance.
Okay.
And you know, in the tradition I come from, we use both. We use the Bhava chakras, Bhava Chalita, and the Rashi chakra, but we use them differently. And Bhavapadas or Arudas are primarily emphasized in the Rashi chakra.
Okay.
So in that, we're using whole sign houses. So what would degrees on the Arudha do for you anyway? If
Right.
if it's closer to a planet or farther away, it doesn't actually make a difference.
Right.
So I myself, in my 2 decades of using these, have not seen a benefit of using degrees. There are various softwares that will calculate that degree for you.
Right.
Degrees on special lagnas of this nature become real important with Gatika Lagna, Bhava Lagna, Hora Lagna, and all of those you can be using in a Bhava chakra, Bhava Chalita chakra, and carry them over. But for this Rashi chakra, and notice I'm saying I haven't found a beneficial use of using the degrees.
Okay.
Other people argue, to me, I'm very practical.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do Parivartana yogas work in Arudha Lagna concept?
And so by asking that, do we mean, does it change the Arudha or does it change the nature of the Arudha? Do you know, or was it a pretty open question?
Open. We can address both.
So to me, it's not going to change the positioning of the Arudha Lagna,
Okay.
but it will change the planets that are associated with the Arudha and what the person becomes known for and famous for. And I teach, different levels for different people. For beginner level, beginner interpretation, just whatever the planets are parivartana, just take them as if they're a yoga on the Arudha.
Okay.
And you can interpret. And that will give you relatively good results.
Okay.
Nice beginning way to do that. But the Arudha will stay where it's placed. Because the Arudha is not actually in that house. It's just kind of like a reflection that's come to that house.
Right.
Yes.
Malefics from 12th from Arudha Lagna. What do they mean and how do we protect them?
Yeah. So it's this is such a key concept, malefics in the 12th from Arudha Lagna. And we can help out so many people by properly understanding the 12th from Arudha Lagna. So many problems in the workplace, in life, are caused by that 12th from Arudha Lagna. So really understanding how to address it. And financially, just life well-being, that 12th from Arudha Lagna, to really understand and to be able to address a malefic is key. And maybe before we go into that malefic, let's go a little into Parashara.
Sure.
And last time, I think we primarily focused on the Arudha Lagna, the 2nd and 12th, or was it the 2nd and 7th?
I think it was 2nd. We talked about a little bit about 2nd and the 12th, but I think we spoke regarding transits.
Transits.
In
malefic transits over the 12th from Arudha Lagna, the AL12, are great. Malefics in the AL12 are horrible. It's very, very similar to the 6th house from Lagna, where I can't say it's almost opposite, but similar in the benefic malefics make such a huge difference in that house. But let's go to Parashara himself. And when we look at Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra, the emphasis given is on the 11th and 12th house from Arudha Lagna. And if we look at the other verses, it's very minimal. He's telling us how to calculate it. He doesn't go too much into interpreting the pada itself. But then if we look at verse, we have verse 8 to 12. He's talking about the 11th and the 12th houses. Verse 13 to 15, he's talking about the 11th. Verse 16, 17, 16 to 21, he talks about the 12th house. That's a lot of verses. You know, if we look at Jaimini, Jaimini gave us 3 verses with 2 words each. And here Parashar is going deep. And then he tells us in verse 22, is it verse 22? Let me double check that. Yeah, in verse 22, he says, anything I said for the 12th, you can apply opposite for the 11th, and vice versa. Anything for the 11th, you can apply in its opposite to the 12th. And then after that, he starts talking about other house padas. So it's a interesting dynamic that comes up. But if we look at this, Parashar is telling us that this is a crucial thing to be putting our attention to. And he starts, if we look at verse 8 to 11, he starts with saying, if the 11th house from the Arudha has a planet or has aspects of planet, the native will be happy and rich. Wealth will come through virtuous means if it's a benefic, and questionable means if it's a malefic. Okay. And let's see. And both means if there's both there. And then he talks about if the planet is in his exaltation or friend sign, the native gets large gains. So he's telling us that a planet in the 11th is going to make us money. The stronger that planet is, the more money it will make us. And let's see. And I'm going to skip 12 and jump over to verse 12 and skip over to, let's see, verse 13 real fast. 13, it says the increase of fortunes is predicted in the ascending order. If the 11th house from the Pada, there is a multiplicity of combination of planets and aspects. So the more planets there, the more money. If there is the combination of Argala, in that also many Argalas in it, the Argala is caused by a benefic, it's benefic and exalted. So he's just saying that basically the more planets and the more Argala from that, and today's topic isn't Argala, but the more Argala supporting that 11th house will make more money. And so my commentary on that, after using that rule for decades, 2 decades, like I actually was thinking the other day, wow, it's been 2 decades I've been reading these charts. Wow. It's there's something that, you know, there's this rule here. In the tradition, there's a concept of, you know, it's 3 things that make us learn. There's the guru, the shastra, and experience. Right, right. The guru says something, the shastra says what it says, the guru elucidates it to us, and then through experience, we really get an idea of what it means. And so here, he's saying that the more planets, the more money. Now, I haven't found it to be a direct correlation. Okay. It's more, the more planets, the more things that will make you money. Okay. Now, how well we monetize that, that's a Lagna situation. But that 11th from Arudha Lagna will show those things that can make you money. What do you have 11th from Arudha Lagna?
I have no planet.
No planet. What about aspects?
11th from Arudha, I'll have to check. I have a friend who is Taurus Arudha, and he's got Venus in the 11th house in Pisces.
All right. So an exalted Venus. So, and what does he do for work?
He's into building houses.
Building. So the thing is, in his chart, I would not have him building any type of house. I would be having him build houses for artists, houses for single women, houses for whatever I can get of that Venus, houses for diplomats, houses for, if he advertised towards those type of people. Right. And now, how does that differ from the planet conjunct second and Kendra from the Arudha? That is what you become famous for. Mm. But famous for to who? Right. So that 11th from Arudha Lagna is going to show who is going to be his clients. And when
Right.
we put those two things together, we have what the person becomes famous for, and then they have who wants to give them money. Literally, any planet in the 11th from Arudha Lagna
Right.
wants to give you money. It's there wanting to give money. So if he's sitting there saying, no one's coming to me, and we got to organize who's he going to advertise for, who's he going to try and enlist to give him business,
Right.
that Venus becomes key. Where's the Venus from the ascendant?
Eighth.
Eighth house. So that eighth, because it's the eighth house, we can integrate the from Lagna situation and say diplomats who are taking big loans to buy houses, um, uh, extravagant developments where they're trying to make it look like the most modern, beautiful place to be, and malls and things of that nature, right? Mall is a very Venetian place. So
Yeah.
building mall, I want to fully utilize all the significations there to fine tune who is going to be the best person to be bringing on as clients.
Right.
Now, if he was an astrologer, I would say, let's focus on things that are pertinent to women. And because it's exalted, I would particularly say double your price and aim for wealthy women.
Right.
If it was a debilitated Venus, I would say, get struggling women, half your price and go for struggling women, because it's better to have half your price and have double the amount of clients than double your price and not enough clients, right?
Right. Right. I have a
So
Saturn aspect on
a
the
Saturn aspect. And so with that Saturn aspect, as an astrologer, I would say aiming to sick people, people that are suffering, people that have money problems, older people. So that's who you would want to organize advertising to get clients.
Right.
And often we'll see, and this is, in the end, does it work or not? Often we'll see that successful clients, you'll sit there and say, oh, sick people or people with problems, and they'll be like, only sick people come to me. And you get that confirmation on a regular when you're using that 11th from Arudha Lagna. Graha drishtis will show more organized, Rashi drishtis will show more organizations,
Mm-hmm.
and Graha drishtis will show people and qualities of people.
Okay.
So if you had the Rashi drishti of Saturn, then that would be workers' organizations, hospitals, things of that nature. If it is the Graha drishti, I'm looking at the people that are associated with that. And if we can activate that, meaning advertise to that, make sure that we know enough to take care of that population, it will support us.
Do we look at the Lord too? Like, for example, if somebody, so first we look at the planet, let's say,
yeah,
11th.
And we're looking at the planet and we're taking its Graha Virya. So
Okay.
that we're taking into account the Rashi there.
Okay.
And then we take that as a whole first, and then we can fine tune it with the Rashi.
Okay.
We can fine tune it if.
And also
like,
the Lord, for example, if
the Lord only if there's no planet or drishti.
Oh, okay. So if they're both not there, then we take the Lord. Okay.
Then we take the Lord. So Grahas first, drishti second, Lord after.
Okay.
And that's the order of who wants to give you money. And literally, they want to give you money.
Right.
So why not make sure that you're serving them so that they can give you what they want, right? Now, if we go in the opposite, we go to the 12th house, the same rules. And let's see, verse 12 says, "Oh, excellent of Brahmins, uninterrupted games always be obtained by the native if the 11th house from the Arudha is aspected by all planets." So he's just saying if there's all planets aspect that 11th from Arudha Lagna, there's always money coming in. Always everybody you meet wants to give you money. So you can't go wrong, right?
Right.
And then it says from the pot of aspect, and the 12th from it remains unaspected. Okay, that's a different verse. So So the thing is, once we start moving to the 12th, we're talking about what's going to take money from us. So as long as we have all planets aspecting that and nothing in the 12th, then money's coming in. As soon as we start throwing planets in the 12th from Arudha Lagna, they've come to take from us. Okay. They want our money, they want our fame, they want to hurt our reputation. It's you know, what kind of reputation does somebody who owes billions of dollars to somebody, or who has multiple unpaid debts, or who can't even pay their bills? You don't have a good reputation if you're not paying your expenses. Let's see. So verse 8, and so 11 and 12. Parashara in verse 16 and 17 says, if the 12th house from the Arudha receives the aspect of benefics and malefics, there will be abundant earnings, but plenty of expenses. In the case of benefics, gains of wealth through fair means, while in the malefics, foul ones. The same, let's see, verse 19, if in the 12th house from the Arudha, here he's saying Lagna Pada of the Lagna, is placed Mercury, and if in conjunction with or aspected by a benefic, there will be expenses through the relatives of the mother. So Mercury, here he's showing us that we're looking at the Karaka, which person. If Mercury's there, it's the mother's family that is taking money from us. And verse 21, he says, if Saturn and Mars are there, then it's one's brothers that are taking money from you. You know, older brother and younger brother, right? Verse 20, he clarifies again. And here he says, if Jupiter is placed there, then you're losing money to taxes. Okay. Now, I haven't seen Jupiter to be losing money to taxes. It's primarily, my experience, it's been the sun. Okay. So here, Jupiter is often, and so this is where benefic planets there show that we have a lot of expenses, but those expenses are to more beneficial things. So for example, if Jupiter is 11th from Arudha Lagna, the person spends lots of money on the temple and their kids' college, and you know, these are beneficial things to spend lots of money on. Right. We get Saturn there. The person is spending lots of money on things that are breaking all the time. They're spending lots of money on bad habits related to Saturn. Often it can give excess use of alcohol or things of that nature. It's not the best expenses. Rahu is the worst there. It gives unseen expenses. Planets 12th, if you have somebody has Rahu 12th from Arudha Lagna, the Antardasha of that Rahu, there'll be big things that just come up and take their money. You know, car accident comes, ruins your car, and you lose money. Or all of a sudden something, you know, there's a flood and you can't live in your apartment anymore, so you have to fix your apartment and pay for another apartment while you're still paying for your apartment. You know, like these kind of big catastrophes, they come with that Rahu there. So
even aspect, if Rahu's aspecting,
the aspect will still do it, but it puts it down to a much less level. There'll be some surprise shock that you have to spend money on, but it's not as big. Sun, when the sun is there, I always tell a person with Sun 12th from Arudha Lagna, have an accountant do your taxes and make sure that cross the T's, dot the I's, because it's very regular that I've seen. And you know that here it says Jupiter, but then the bottom line is I've had multiple people come crying about the IRS in America, the tax collection service, and they all have Sun 12th from Arudha Lagna. So it's in my country at least, it's the government taking your money. Yeah.
Right. What about Moon?
Moon is more beneficial. So moon is a comfort spender. The person buys the person likes to buy comforts. They overexpend on comforts. They overexpend on family and family's well-being and taking care of everybody in their family. If it's a malefic moon, like aspected by Rahu or Saturn or Mars, I call it emotional spending. If it becomes a malefic moon, 12th from Arudha Lagna, the person will, as soon as if it's Mars conjunct or aspecting, they'll get angry and they'll go out and spend all their money. If it's Saturn, when they're lonely or sad, they'll just spend all their money. If it's Rahu, then they're spending all their money anyway. so, and so it's a very emotional spending. And so in that case, I almost just a real in the world suggestion is, hey, when you don't feel well, make sure that you don't have access to the wallet, because why buy all these things that you don't need? And literally they're like, yeah. It's because they're just buying to make the moon happy, to try and uplift. Like spending kind of makes the moon feel happier. And that works if you're a trillionaire. It doesn't work if you're not a millionaire yet.
Right. So what's the antidote to that, to some of these? So for sun, you had mentioned that they should get their taxes.
Yeah. Well, for the moon, it's just, we have to have other habits of when we're not feeling good.
Right.
And as long as it's benefic, as long as it's a benefic, benefic aspected by other benefics and no afflictions, those expenses are very high, but they're not negative expenses, and can often have beneficial long-term results. But if it's a malefic, it can torture you and take your money. And so, we started all this digging into this. You asked the question, how do we treat a malefic in the 12th?
Right.
And now, after hearing that, it's like, we really want to treat that malefic in the 12th.
Yes.
And Rahu also will give, because it's also a house of secret enemies. And so it's expenses and secret enemies. So those malefic planets will show, particularly Rahu, people will be lying about you at work, saying things that aren't true, actively trying to hurt your reputation. Otherwise, we're looking at the karaka there, and whatever the karaka of that planet is, they generally don't have your well-being in hand. And it's a really tough one when moon is there, because we want mother to have our best interest in mind, right? But we got to get that some people have jealousy issues with their mother, or their mother has jealousy issues, or she loves the brother more, or she loves, however that goes, right? And she might try and hide it and make excuses for it, but we got to just, mother, doesn't always have your best interest. Go ask dad for advice, not mom, if it's more well placed. So in this way, any planet there will be not supporting you. What do we do about it? In general, either Krura, Rupa, or Mahavidya.
Okay.
That planet in the 12th from the Arudha Lagna benefits from a more cruel deity. So if we have Mars there, we don't want a happy Kartikeya. We need to have a battling Kartikeya, or a much more, we want an intensity to it. With the malefics, Mars, Saturn, and Rahu, it's normally best send the person to a pujari who can do a Mahavidya puja.
Okay.
That person, they come to you, they're like, there's these rumors going around at work, and it's like killing me. I think I might get fired because they don't want whatever. And you see that Rahu in the 12th from Arudha Lagna, don't even think about it. Say go to a pujari, and then it's just a matter of how bad the rumors are and how much they can afford for how many days they're going to be doing that puja.
Okay.
So particularly for the malefics, Mahavidyas are great. And then when we go into the benefics, we want some element of intensity, because we're not just trying to we don't want to make that planet stronger of its own, because that planet is not supporting us.
Right.
Just by doing the benefic deity connected with that planet, you actually can increase your expenses.
Okay.
And by doing the cruel, we're containing, we're making that planet come to behave properly.
Right.
We're making that person who is a secret enemy not hate us so much, or at least not act upon whatever dislike they have towards us.
Right.
So very crucial. Let's take a few more verses into account. So we looked at, we saw that he saw the karakas of the 12th, of what was it, the 12th? Yeah, of the 12th, what makes us lose money. And then he says in 22, all the combinations that have been spoken of as expenses causing, in the case of the 12th house from the Arudha, are gains or wealth causing combinations in the case of the 11th. So, well, first, as we start to notice what's making people money and we start really understanding that 11th from Arudha Lagna, we are at the same time understanding what's making us lose money in the 12th from Arudha, and vice versa. You see this big expense. You see, oh my gosh, you lost all this money from that, and you see it in the 12th from Arudha Lagna. Next time you see it in the 11th from the Arudha Lagna, you tell the person to go do it, because it'll make them lots of money. Right. So it's an important little verse there that shows that these two houses have this relationship with each other. I often tell this one story of when I was only a year or two with Pandit Sanjay Roth, and so still green under his tradition. I met an astrologer who'd been 20-something years, big name or whatever. And I looked at his chart, and we were talking before, and he told me what he did. And I looked at his chart, and his Navamsha was wrong. Oh. It was so obvious, 30 seconds back, and that was the correct Navamsha form. But he didn't know he didn't understand Navamsha properly. And so 20 years he's reading charts without being able to rectify his own Navamsha. So it doesn't matter how long we're reading charts. What matters is, do we have the proper training as we're reading the charts? Because if you know how to look at the 11th from Arudha Lagna, and the next 10 years, you just pay attention. What is making the person money? What is not making them money? Look at the 11th from Arudha Lagna, understand the planets there. When they come with great losses, look at that 12th from Arudha Lagna and whatever else is happening. This deep wisdom will develop. So you could have spent the next 10 years doing Jyotish, but if you didn't have this, it doesn't matter that it was 10 years. The technique hasn't been seasoned in the right way. So this is one that I recommend always be looking at, that 11th and 12th from Arudha Lagna. And as I said, that 12th, you'll save so many problems, so many headaches. Are there just being caused by malefics and problems there. And really strong planets can sometimes be negative, right? Because all of a sudden it means a really big expense. And occasionally you'll get people who they say they are having money problems. And right. The first thing you want to do is you want to make them have more money. But occasionally it's not that they need more money. It's that we got to cut their expenses down. Right. And so that 11th and 12th from Arudha Lagna helps us understand that whether the person is actually having an income issue or whether they're having a money management issue.
Right. What if someone has Venus 12th from their Arudha, or planet ruling? Venus is the ruling planet, right?
So, let's just say if Venus was there, just for, right. Yeah. If Venus was there, the person spends on pretty things, spends on makeup, really likes to have expensive dresses, expensive clothes, They where the moon likes comforts, you know, the moon comfort would be an expensive, nice, cushy, something that feels good.
Right.
Venus, it has to look good. A lot of expense on that. For men, it's very difficult because it creates where sometimes even your spouse is not supporting you. All of a sudden something goes wrong, the spouse is supporting the person at work who's angry at you. They're like, see, you're doing that just like I told you not to do that. And you're like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be on my side.
Right.
You're not supporting them. Like, you're going to get me fired. You keep supporting them. And this is with men. With women, it will often give a lot of backstabbing and talking behind the back among girlfriends and sisters and things of that nature.
So Rahu aspect on the 12th would be more at work, and Venus is more with girls and backbiting and just
girls. Well, the thing is, anybody that has Venus 12th from Arudha Lagna in the workplace will have more difficulty with the women in the workplace.
Okay.
Just by nature, that those are the people that will say negative things about them.
Right.
And because Venus is women without children, you know, younger women particularly cause more problems.
Right.
And so certain times, you know, there's the certain charts where you can see the ethics aren't the highest. And if the ethics aren't the highest and there's a afflicted Venus, 12th from Arudha Lagna, I say just don't be in a room alone with a woman, to certain men.
Right.
You know, this is a case where you're going to get a potentiality of, whether it's a false accusation or not, it's going to be an accusation.
Right.
You know, the false or not depends on other factors in the chart. Rahu often makes false accusations. But still, it's, you know, there's just no reason to have to suffer that to the Arudha.
Right. Well, this is so cool.
Yeah. And so key. It's and we just went into the 12th and the 11th.
Right.
But just there, it's so much information.
Yes.
And think how many charts, if we're not looking at this, how much information we're losing that can benefit the person.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes.
So how about Arudha Lagna in different houses?
Arudha Lagna in different houses, and we got about 10 minutes left, right?
Yeah.
And so I do have on, and my YouTube channel is just all my old classes that are online right now. And I used to teach pretty openly. Mm-hmm. These days, I don't, you know, people are like, it's a dead YouTube. And it's not that it's dead, it's just, it's there so that it's available. But these days, at that time period that they were made, I was, you know, I was just teaching. It was just whatever, teaching. And after some time, you teach so much. And instead of giving lots of people a little bit, I've kind of changed to, I rather have those few students that I give a lot to, and give a lot and ensure that they can sit down and give a consultation and properly use all the techniques. In the end, that's more effective. That's going to create a world with quality astrologers. So that's been my focus the last number of years. But on that old website, I go through the different houses, and at that time I was actually processing a book that I was writing that's got dust now in its notes because other things took precedent.
Okay.
But just as a small little looking over, mm-hmm. Planets in the first and second influence what you're known for. And in the first, it's the strongest. In the second, it's the things that you can do that support your reputation. So for example, if Mars is in the second from Arudha Lagna, ensuring that you're keeping good boundaries and following the rules increases the reputation. Where if we take the negative significations of that Mars, arguing and fighting, it lowers the reputation. So whatever's in that second, whether we use it to uplift or not, we are impacting the reputation. Third is a very interesting one. Malefics there do well. Benefics, malefics there, they help us achieve, but they also make it so that people think we're a little bit rough around the edges. Benefics there make it so that people perceive us as very nice, gentle people. It's very spiritual to have benefics there.
Right.
It's very worldly successful to have malefics there. If someone has malefics there and they're trying to be spiritual, it can sometimes be an issue. Okay. Because you don't want that Swami who wants all your money.
Right.
Somebody that is trying to be successful in the material world and has benefics there, it makes it harder for them because nice guys don't always win.
Yeah.
But you want your Swami to be the nice guy. So it's a plus and a minus, and there's a lot of negotiations that are required around that third from Arudha Lagna. 4, 7, and 10 from Arudha Lagna all impact reputation.
Okay.
Any planet that is Digbala from Arudha Lagna will impact it the most. But those planets are all impacting what you become known for. The fifth from Arudha Lagna has a lot to do with what people think you know a lot about.
Okay.
Do they think you're smart? Do they not think you're smart? Do they think you're a genius? Because there's people call, various people geniuses, and are they geniuses or is it just dumb luck? Right. Mm-hmm. But the fifth from Arudha Lagna will show whether it's just a good reputation or not. 6 from Arudha Lagna is very similar to the third. Okay. Benefics make us soft, malefics give us a little harder, more harsh around the edges. Mm-hmm. 8th from Arudha Lagna is things that we struggle with image-wise. And it doesn't particularly, there's not death from Arudha Lagna in that way. But yeah, and I say that, but there are death calculations. We won't go there though. And 9th, whatever is 9th from Arudha Lagna is your defender. It's like the opposite of that person in the 12th who's just, they want to point out all your bad things and pull down your reputation. Anything in the 9th will protect your reputation.
So if someone has their Arudha Lagna going into the 9th.
Oh, well, I'm talking 9th from Arudha Lagna.
Right. So you had mentioned.
So if the Arudha Lagna went into the 9th, the 9th from the Arudha Lagna would be in the 5th. Right. And so that would mean that the children and students all stand up and protect your reputation. Right. If the Arudha was in the 10th house, then the 9th from it is the 6th. And it means your employees, the people that work for you, they all just will swear for your reputation and protect your reputation. Even if you beat them, they will still say good things about you.
That's 10th from Arudha?
No, if the Arudha Lagna was in the 10th,
right,
the 9th becomes the 6th.
Okay.
Right? So in this way, whatever is 9th from the Arudha Lagna becomes that which is standing up and protecting you, even if it's the most malefic thing in the world. We looked at that 12th from Arudha Lagna and like, why should mom be jealous of you? Right. Why should mom love brother more than you? Why should mom, why like this? It's just like, mom should, but because it's 12th, there's issues. Now, when we go to the 9th, anything there will protect you. You put Rahu there, the thugs will protect you. The thugs will be like, don't mess with her. You mess with her, we'll mess with you. You throw Saturn there, the poor people, the workers, the, whatever, like, will be standing up for you. Gulika there will show that even the worst people possible will be supporting you. Cool. Don't talk bad about her or else you have to deal with me. Right. And so those malefics are actually really nice. in the ninth from Arudha Lagna. It's like one of the best places to have some of the malefics, depending on everything else in the
Right.
chart. So we talked about ninth, then 10th we talked about, and then 11th and 12th we went deep into today.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so lots on Arudha there, right?
Oh, I love Arudha. I mean, I have seen most of
Yeah.
your videos, right? And I've made a lot of notes too. And it's really interesting because I'm like, if perceived image is
Yes.
basically everything, then we should be really focusing on that image and also protecting, right?
Yeah.
And learn more about it.
And in this age where we're living on Zoom,
Yeah.
the Arudha is becoming pure king.
Yes.
It's the Zoom is making traditionally Atmakarika is king. That's
Right.
you know, but we're not in the world anymore. We're on Zoom. All of a sudden, we've entered this platform where this is my real background, but I could, with the flip of a button, make it look like I'm on the beach somewhere.
Right.
Make it look like I'm in the mountains. It's just complete Arudha.
Right. Right.
I could, there's all the jokes of people that go to work without pants on and stuff. And, you look at them and they're wearing a suit and all this, but that's the only nice thing on them. And so in the end, it just goes to show it's that little box we've entered this pure Arudha land with technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
People are meeting, online because of the COVID, and they're having their groups online, and there is something missing and people don't know exactly what it is. But if we were meeting them in person, it would actually be community. It would be moon. But because we're having this online community, they're actually Arudha. They're the image of the moon.
Right.
So we're getting moon, but we're not getting the actual moon. We're getting a perceived moon. But when we're sitting with somebody, we see how their feet are moving. We see whether they're nervous or not. There's this whole body communication that's coming to us.
Right.
It's true moon.
Right.
That was me. And for moon, we see moon is this human interaction, because moon is community, moon is mind, moon also is the body, right? When we're looking at health. And so that health, that whole body movement is, that moon is the prana that moves the body. My hands are moving like this, and you're getting what I'm thinking because my hands are moving in a certain way. So that moon is communicating through my body as well as through the mercury of my speech and mind.
Right.
And on Zoom, we lose part of it. We lose a huge amount of that.
Right. Right. This day and age. This world.
Yes. Well, hopefully we won't be completely Zoom, soon enough.
Right. It's completely zooming out. That's a good one. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for such a wonderful session. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
viewers, for watching. And any questions, please leave us a comment below. And I hope you guys enjoy the video. Thank you.